Live from Darlington, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the virtual Darlington Raceway. This is qualifying race number 1 for the Retro 500. So happy that you're spending your Wednesday evening with us here on Podium Esports. We're alongside myself, Evan Pasoka. Happy to be joined by Dylan Connolly in the broadcast booth this evening. As always, our producer is Ryan Bauer, and our cameras are courtesy of Dougie Beard. And Dylan, this begins a month-long plus process of qualifying the grid for the Podium Retro 500 a little bit later on this year. 4 qualifying races with the top 10 drivers at each advancing, and it all gets kicked off tonight. Should be a real exciting afternoon.
I really think so. You know, it's a great car track combo. It's one of the most famous tracks in the world, Darlington Motor Speedway. It's a car that's really fun to drive, and it's not the most easiest car to drive, but it should be a lot of fun to watch these drivers wheel these things around for a couple hours in the next few weeks.
We're talking throwback vibes, and obviously, I don't know if you can see it, I do have the shirt rocking, you got the fit going as well, and that all centers around the cars. These 1987 NASCAR Cup cars, the Chevrolet and the Ford. Help me translate this, right? We're talking about a car that's got 650 horsepower. It's a 358 cubic inch V8. I think the easiest translation through all of that is hard to drive on its own. Plus, Darlington, I think, is what's going to make this such an exciting show.
So even in, the current Cup cars, not as much horsepower as are in this car, and there's a lot more downforce in this car, with the spoiler being at 60 degrees in this 87 car. You're going to see a lot of drivers getting loose when they normally wouldn't. You got to drive these cars way different than the Cup car and even the Xfinity car. You got to be very careful with the throttle, and it's at a track that, even in a car with a lot of downforce and a lot of horsepower, it's going to be very difficult for these drivers to drive. And now with the added factor that the car is also harder to drive, we're going to find out who can really drive tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be exciting. Let's take a look from high and above this virtual Darlington Raceway. It's known as the Lady in Black, the track too tough to tame. Those are some of the polite names, anyways, that the fans have given to Darlington Raceway over the years. The oldest speedway on the NASCAR circuit, Darlington Raceway's egg-shaped configuration. One end, big and wide open down at 1 and 2. 3 and 4 pinch tight, has perplexed drivers and mechanics since it opened in 1950 with the inaugural running of NASCAR's Southern 500. It was built on an old farm in the middle of rural South Carolina, and its unique shape is legacy of the Middle Pond for the farmer that owned the land down in turns 3 and 4 that he was not willing to give up. That's what gives us this 1.36 mile egg-shaped super speedway here in Darlington. Of course, we talk about some of the specifics in the challenge here tonight. Turns 1 and 2 bank 25 degrees. Turns 3 and 4 a little bit less at 23, but again, it is that shape that makes this racetrack so unique, not necessarily the banking.
Yeah, it's a very, really interesting track. There's not really anything to compare it to. A lot of tracks, you probably have a sister track compared to. You could kind of use some notes from other tracks, or you've just had experience here, but you can't get any experience here without driving here. There's nothing to base it off of, because there's no, Bristol maybe to an extent, because 1 and 2 there is a little different than 3 and 4, but it's not as drastic as this. You're really wide open in 1 and 2, or you're going a lot faster than 3 and 4. You're going to probably about 30, 40 miles an hour slower going into 3 and 4. I was able to run 25 laps today, and I noticed something, that tires going to be very important. Speaking of tires, today it's 123 laps, just a hair over 167 miles a day. Top 10 finishers will advance to the main on September 6th on Labor Day. 5 sets of tires in the pits, 1 on the car. They got 6 sets of tires total. It's a custom fixed setup from Jeff McConey over at McConey Setup Shop, and they do have 1 fast repair if they so choose to use it, and I have a feeling a lot of these cars will have to use that at some point. The cautions are controlled by iRacing, but if there is anything that's missed or just something that just skips over the iRacing system, we do have race admin in the building to throw that caution for us.
I think it's always nice when you have actual race control to add a little bit of a human element to oversee this. And of course, it's the Retro 500. We're all looking forward to that main event on September the 6th. So this 167-mile sprint tonight, very different than what these drivers are hoping to prepare for with that feature race just a little bit later on. It is a sprint, and we're talking about the top 10 drivers punch it in right now in the qualifying session. In these final moments of this single car session, drivers continue to load into the sim. Currently, the number is at 25 cars attempting to qualify for the 10 golden tickets on the line tonight. And the positive, Dylan, is if you have a bad night, we already mentioned the quick fix, but if you don't qualify in this evening, that's fine, because we're going to be here for the next 3 Wednesday nights. And if you don't qualify tonight, you could buy back in and try it again. Qualifying has drawn to a close. Let's go trackside and take a look at your podium starting grid. And Chad Peterson will bring us to the green flag this evening. His 31-123 bests the ball, and he'll be alongside by Nathan Jurgensen in second. Colton Zimmer, Mario Miranda will start from third and fourth. With the Garretts, it's Conrath P5 and Maines P6.
Over in row 4, we have John Theodore with a time of 31.416. Alongside him is Kevin Champagne in the 87, one of the 5 Fords in the field. Row 5, Roswell Harlow with a 31.5 in qualifying. Next to him is Daniel Hinder. In row 6, we got Landon Mills and Wesley Haynes, and another one of those few Fords in the field.
Yeah, found a couple of times who qualified belong to Jason Coe, SC Martin, and Dylan Hastings. And then everybody else on the back provisionals. Big names in the likes of Anthony Burrows, Logan Helton, and Max Brady, your top 18.
Back in row 10, you have Cody Dutton, Storm Patterson. Again, these drivers did not log a qualifying time. Liam Sheen in row 11, Brent Pancari alongside of him. Brandon Brown, our in-race reporter, in row 12, and Jake Ham. Going to see if he goes ham in this race tonight in row 12.
And there's a lone driver on his own. You talk about Ham and Zimmerman, so 24 going to be the magic number. I believe one of the drivers who entered in Q not going to make it all the way to the race in this one. But we talk about our in-race reporter. We'll be dialing in with the driver of that 69 machine tonight. And Dylan, you have got Brandon Brown on the radio.
Brandon, of course, the manager of digital media and marketing. Oh, my computer crashed. That's always good. Brandon, how's the car feel in practice, and what are you looking for tonight?
Hello? There we go.
Brandon, what are you looking for tonight? You know, we saw you had some speed in qualifying, a little bit in practice, but what are you expecting tonight?
Really expecting a loose racetrack, and a lot of people probably are going to overdrive the cars to start this thing out. Something you got to watch for: don't follow somebody else's mistake. It's so easy to just follow somebody into turn 3 and run into the wall with them. I did that in qualifying by myself, so it's going to be easier to do with cars of the track. I'm going to give you guys a show from 22nd though.
We'd expect nothing less. So what's your plan tonight? You know, of course, tires are a premium. You know, it's a little different than the Cup car where it's easier to save tires. But these, I did a 25 lap run and the tires were squealing during that tire run. So what did you see in practice? Are tires going to be at a premium here?
Oh, for sure it is. You're going to have to save that right rear, it being so loose. You're going to have to save the right rear, save the right front, and just basically keep your car out of trouble. I think if you keep a car out of trouble, you're gonna find your way up towards that top 10.
Well, all right, Brandon, good luck. See you work your way through the field, and good luck.
In-race reporter, he's ready to go for the rear of the field. Up front, pace truck already down to the safety of pit road. Happy that you're with us on Podium as we say, let's go qualifying at Darlington.
Have a few drivers moving to the back earlier. They just wanted to see the potential calamity going on in front of them. It's Chad Peterson out to an early lead.
Towards the rear, half the drivers down to the old pit road wall, down the back straightaway as they try to squeeze up. There's a ton of room, but that line is really to choke up in turn number 3. We survive lap number 1. Your pole sitter, Chad Peterson, with the opening lap led in this race. Garrett Maines picks up an early one. He'll jump up to P5. You're on board with his number 2.
It's one of the drivers I want to look at tonight. You know, he's in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series. I want to see what his plan is, if he's going to try to get to the front immediately, or if he's just going to kind of feel how things go here and just work his way up.
And here's an on-board look with Roswell Harlow also dropping a spot early in this race. This is going to be an event where drivers, for the most part, are going to want to avoid going side by side, at least early in this 123-lap race. We talked about how short it is compared to the main event next month, but you still need to survive. And on the outside, Mario Miranda going to fight off a challenge by the 31 at 8th at Jurgensen. He will slide back, and Peterson gets his first bit of a Darlington stripe up front, and another one, that time in 3 and 4. So nowhere is safe. Looking off of the back of the number 9.
Trying to see how much paint he can knock off the side of that car. Makes it a little faster. Of course, you know, Darlington Stripe's not the end of the world here. There is a little speed up against the wall, but of course you don't want to be in the wall too much like he's been so far, but seems to be doing fine. Not too much damage.
Doing his best of hanging on, but I think the big step there was we survived the opening couple of laps of this race. Today we'll see the big topic of conversation, and it is every time we come to Darlington, is the tires. Is taking care of that race car. Track temp 114 degrees as you go back on board with Miranda in 3rd, so it's going to be eating away at those tires. The track also hard to drive until rubber gets put down, so I wonder how conservative some guys are going to be early.
Yeah, I talked to our in-race reporter, Brandon Brown, in practice. We have a caution. Holy cow, that is, I believe that is Logan Helton that was spun out across the field. Caution's out early.
Max Brady had an issue as well, so there's a handful of drivers with an issue at lap number 4. That'll put us under the first caution flag of this race. Brady's not going to be done just like that. Let's watch again, though. It's the 57 car around. Brady off of turn number 4, rights the ship a little bit. And then on the inside, he bails out, but I feel like there was more to it. I mean, it looked like a handful of drivers had some sort of an issue, but the caution flag comes out early in this race here from Darlington.
Relatively clean start up to that point. You know, it seemed like everyone had everything sorted out. Still not really sure what happened back there, but very relatively clean start. Of course, Chad Peterson about lost it, but he got it straightened out. That's a big thing that you mentioned, that track temperature. Of course, when I did testing and even in the practice session, it was a lot cooler, and it was even hard to drive then. But I can't imagine what it's like now with that track being a lot slicker.
Let's take a look with S.E. Martin a little bit further back from the incident with Brady. And that would be your caution. That was a huge impact, and look out as he comes up in front of traffic and just leaves enough room for some drivers to sneak through on the high side. Big hit. A little bit late on the brakes there, and it is a single car accident, but that certainly could have ended much worse when you see a car coming up in front of a pack like that.
That could have been a lot worse, and it's pretty impressive. Everybody missed him. You know, normally when you see something like that, you'll just see people pile into it, but everyone did a great job slowing down, recognizing the caution was out, and just dodging the car that was in front of him. Sure, Chad and Colton and Nathan up front were like, holy cow, didn't want to see that early, but just made it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, a couple of cars down pit road early with damage. Dylan Hastings is down. He really doesn't have much damage. S.E. Martin, of course, the driver with the major damage. I don't believe he was able to drive that car to pit road. Martin, that is, as you look up towards him off of the onboard of Hastings. So he's likely serving about a 2 to 3 minute time penalty to get towed to pit road. And then you would suspect that Martin's going to get a quick repair. Hastings in and out of the box after about 40 seconds. Was not damaged in the incident, so that was just a normal pit stop for the driver of the number 8 machine. So hard to take too much away from a short opening stint in this one, but it certainly looked like, I mean, you talked about some of the aggressiveness. It didn't really look like drivers were pushing it too hard, and I think for the most part, it's a pretty good start. You had a couple of drivers gain a spot here, gain a spot there, no big swings. Anthony Burrows goes +5, but I think for the most part, everybody's showing they're willing to be at least a little bit patient early on in this one.
I think everyone's recognized that this race is 123 laps, so there's no point in making big meaty moves on lap 8 when you got about 115 laps to go. So I think everyone's just kind of biding their time, going through this first cycle of pit stops, and just seeing how everything goes on the racetrack. But, you know, everyone's just trying to see, you know, what works, what doesn't work, different braking points, and just kind of feeling the car out and the rest of the field.
And that's going to be critical. It's just feeling this race out, right? It's a very different race to what you're going to be hopefully racing in if you can qualify for the 500 coming up next month. But there is a little bit of a sense of urgency. Of course, we talked about, yeah, if you don't make the show tonight, you can try again next Wednesday. You can try again the Wednesday after that. You can try again the Wednesday after that. I mean, if you're committed, you have the opportunities. And if you want to get in and compete in this one, your opportunity to do so is at podiumesports.com/retro 500. This is our tribute to the Winston Cup era of NASCAR stock car racing, utilizing iRacing's 1987 Chevrolet Monte Carlo and Ford Thunderbird at the historic Darlington Raceway. Drivers are competing in qualifying races throughout the month of August in order to earn their place in next month's 367-lap, 500-mile feature on Labor Day evening. The winner will earn $500 in prize money and the bragging rights that come with victory in one of virtual stock car racing's ultimate tests of skill. Again, for more information, podiumesports.com/retro 500. Sticking with that retro theme, lights are out on top of the pace car, a single file line on the outside in turns 3 and 4. Chad Peterson, the control car, after starting on pole position. We'll see what the nine can do from the front row in this one. A long way from home, still with 114 laps to go. Green flag flies. We're back underway.
Field kind of spacing out there. Of course, the leader was able to control the restart there, Chad Peterson, and was able to keep the field from getting bunched up as they head through 1 and 2. Little side-by-side action at the back of the field, but everyone seems to be kind of spaced out now.
No big dives to the fence like they did on the opening lap of this race. Some side-by-side inside of the top 10. There's a pass as Garrett Maines will work his way through. Gets around Jurgensen, +2 for Maines early in this race as he gets up to position number 4. But a little bit of a gap now to those top 3 who are much stronger on the restart.
Garrett Maines, I think he was able to, just off the restart, he got a good run, what it looked like, and he was just like, oh, I'll take this spot. So he's still probably just feeling out the field in front of him as we have a couple cars get loose in the back of the pack. But it seems like Garrett's just kind of biting his time and just kind of hanging in there. Just see what happens. Of course, we got about 112 laps to go, so there's no reason to really push it.
That was John Theodore who was under fire. I mentioned Anthony Burrows was the biggest mover early in this race. Still is, +7. Was kind of looking on that left rear quarter panel of the 88 machine up in front, but wasn't willing to commit to it. And if you get a good run here off of turn number 2, another opportunity. He has the speed, but it's not going to be enough to get alongside Theodore. And at this point in the race, unless you're next to somebody at the end of the straightaway, you're probably not going to throw it in there and make that move.
Well, you say that, but I would say they with about 5 to go or less, I'd imagine that they probably would. But I mean, Walter's trying to get to the front. I mean, he's our biggest mover. He's gained 7 spots, but I think a lot of drivers, he might be one of those that's just trying to get to the front and then just stay in front because who knows what could happen behind him. But looks like Anthony Burrows is moving to the front, but you won't see anyone throw it in there or try any dive bombs until later in the race. But again, that could change. You never know. Might head toward pit stops. We have a crash. 3 and 4.
That was a huge hit for Daniel Hendry. The 71 snapped in the center of the corner. He was right in that battle, and I think just got a little bit hot onto the brakes as he closed in on the back of John Theodore. Watch this. It's all going to set up on the run down the back straightaway. In line, a little bit loose there, but he carries the momentum, and as he looks to put a move on the 99 right there, drives it in, has to get the brakes hard, and it's a bit of an overcorrection, and that is a hard hit into the inside or the outside wall for the 71. The front is ripped off of that car. There is no caution. A little bit of damage as well for John Theodore in all of that one, and what I just said, don't be throwing it in there. Lap 15, and you got a little bit overzealous, and that's how the car ends up on the hook with over 100 laps to go.
I'd imagine that Daniel Hinder is coming down pit road to get that quick repair, but trap him at least 1 lap down, so he'll have to just ride around, hope for a lucky dog here in this race, or try to find his way back on the lead lap, but it's going to be an uphill battle. But I mean, a lot of race left to go, so I imagine he'll have a chance to do that.
he's got plenty of time. And now I'm interested to see. I mean, John Theodore was kind of fighting an uphill battle as was. Started in 7th, had just got passed by Burrows to drop him to 9th. Before that contact happened, and you can see on the onboard peak there with Mills, I mean, he does have some damage, so curious if that's going to affect him over the course of this race. Mario Miranda has been one of the more consistent drivers tonight in 3rd, wants another spot, thinking high on Colton Zimmer, and kind of a tricky move to look to the outside off of 4, but he'll have the position in turn number 1. Zimmer lets it go, but can he hold off Garrett Maines? It'll be a 2-for-1. Miranda goes to 2nd, Maines goes to 3rd, and that'll drop your 3rd place starter Colton Zimmer down to P4.
Now, Mario Miranda, so you may have heard that name on Podium Esports. They do show the SidMax Cup by MPI. He has 2 wins in that series as a rookie. He's won at Bristol, Dirt, and Coda. So that's a name that you've heard before. There's a reason, because he's been on this station before.
A lot of familiar faces. I'm expecting to see a lot of familiar faces through the community over the course of these next 4 weeks. Again, this is just race 1. We're back for the next 3 Wednesday evenings. If you plan on joining us here at twitch.tv/Podium Esports or in the car yourself. Here is the view off of the battle down the back straightaway. We talk about bubbles and where that line's going to be. Remember, the magic number is the top 10 in tonight's race, and this is that battle right now. Landon Mills is P10, hotly contested by Logan Helton. They're a little bit more than 5 seconds off of the race leader, but this is where it is. It actually now with Theodore dropping back 2 more spots. Update that, they're both in, as Helton now is the bubble driver in 10th.
That's one thing, you might see those drivers up at the top 5. There's really not an incentive to win this race other than, you probably get a higher spot in the big race on September 6th on Labor Day, but there's really no reason if you're soundly in for you to risk, potentially cause a wreck and, knock yourself out where you have to qualify again and go through another 123 laps of this. I mean, I drove, like I said earlier, 25 laps and it's a workout. I mean, that was with very cool temperatures, so I can't imagine with the track being this slick how much these drivers are having to wheel these cars.
The track temp only continuing to creep up and up. The weather and time of day in the iRacing sim is fixed, so you can't hope on things cooling down over the course of the night. We're locked in sim time just a little bit shy of 3:30 in the afternoon. Behind this duo, see a pass there as Garrett Conrath will get around Colton Zimmer, and now Zimmer -3 positions since the restart. Needs to start thinking about what adjustments or changes he wants to make to that car as we creep closer and closer to about quarter distance in this race. And up the road there is Garrett Maines. No shock that Maines is the guy trying to make some moves, looking on the inside. I mean, he's going to have to get Miranda and Peterson here because they're fighting for the race lead. I'm not sure Maines can find a spot in between them. Here's his view from 3rd.
Of course, Garrett Maines, again, he's probably just feeling him out. He probably won't try anything. We got about 100 laps to go, so I don't think he's going to try anything drastic just yet. But when it gets to crunch time, I figure that number 2 car is going to be making some moves. As he goes to the inside here, Miranda catches the wall a little bit. Now they're side by side.
Just a touch. It didn't hurt the 98, or the 99, I should say, but it just pulled a little bit of momentum, and that's exactly what Garrett Maines needed. He needed a gap to get one car, get in line, and reset. It was going to be an awfully tall order if you expected him to clear both Miranda and Peterson in the same corner. But we talk about the pride. I think that's the big thing here in this race as we see Conrad's perspective from the 4th place spot, and your race leader, Peterson, gets the fence in 4. Here comes Garrett Maines. Again, Peterson in the fence. And for the first time this afternoon, Garrett Maines will drive to the race lead, and Miranda wants P2 back. He'll take that as well. Everybody teaming up on the 37.
I think that's a big thing. Garrett Maines being in this race, it might be a little intimidation factor to these drivers, because if you see a world-class driver in your rear, you might think, oh, wow, it's kind of like the old NASCAR video games. You had the intimidator button. It seemed like almost Garrett Maines pulled that button out and was just, trying to make them make a mistake, and both of them did. He went from 3rd to 1st just like that.
And now we'll see what Peterson can do to bounce back, because he had looked all right, but just that one mistake opened up the door. He has been side by side with Conrad here for a solid lap, both making it work, but finally on the runoff at 2, give it to Conrad. So Peterson back to 4th, no opportunity to breathe. Here comes Kevin Champagne. Haven't talked much about the driver of that Mac tonight. 87 Ford Thunderbird started 8th in this race. He is now a top 4 car with that pass.
That's a good-looking car, man. He's moving up. He's one of the few Fords in this field. It's a Monte Carlo-dominated field, but of course there's no technical advantage between either car. And as we see, moving up to 6th, Anthony Burrows, our other Coke driver in the field, currently moving his way up pretty quick. Seems like both of these Coke drivers have made a plan. It seemed like they both were just kind of feeling things out, but they said, well, it's go time. May as well get to the front now, so...
Well, and I was about to mention Pride, and then they, of course, started fighting for the race lead. But, you know, the only thing that can be accomplished in this race is a top 10. P1 pays just as good as P10, right? The Retro 500 is going to have its own qualifying. So your qualifying positions in these qualifying races, and your finishing position, I guess I should say, is not going to directly reflect where you start in that main show. So just as good P10 as the race win. Now, can you tell a Garrett Maines that, right? Or Anthony Burrows, like, hey, you don't need to win the race, so just go out there and take it easy as Miranda gets more of the fence there in 3 and 4. Absolutely not, but it is something to consider as our second caution of the afternoon comes here working lap number 28. And a slow car in turn number 2. It looks like Jason Coe, the culprit in this one.
Let's see what happened to Jason Coe. He's coming down the front stretch here. Pretty much all by himself. See, heads down to 1 and 2, and just looks like he lost it. Looked like he might have turned a little bit much. Took out. Can't see who that was. He clipped all the way by. Have to see if he has some damage that might affect him later in the race. But it seems like he'll be able to keep chugging along without taking the quick repair. But we'll see. That was Dylan Hastings he got a piece of. Looks like the Hastings machine is fine, but we'll have to see here.
Just a real strange incident. We'll see the view from Hastings here. He's not really going to see the wreck unfold. It's going to be 2 cars up the road, kind of blocked by the car in front of him. So he doesn't get much of a heads up here. First car goes high. He wants to go high also, but right there, when the 54 snaps it back up, his blue Otter Chevy gets a piece of it. Right on that left rear quarter panel, especially the wheel well area. Very fragile part of these cars in the sim, but it looks like not worse for wear, and he'll be all right. But just a weird incident with Coe there. It looks like he maybe just tried to keep it in the gas a little bit too long and went over the hump in turn 1, ended up in the fence. Your race leaders all down pit road for the first time tonight. There is Garrett Maines' perspective. These are not modern day NASCAR Cup Series pit stops. A lot longer to get 4 tires changed.
If I remember correctly, you know, back in the old days, they were around 25 to 30 second pit stops, a little faster here in the simulation as he gets out on a 22.2 second pit stop. Looked like everybody took 4 tires down that time. Everyone's pit time about the same, but looks like, well, I take that back. Looks like Chad Peterson may have taken 2 tires, but he gets off pit road first. And Cody Dutton.
So an interesting call. Peterson 11.9 in the box, Dutton 11.4. Everybody else in the 20s when it comes to the pit stops. And let's check it back in with our in-race reporter, Dylan.
Brandon Brown, you're sitting in 11th. How the heck did you get from 22nd to 11th in about 30 laps?
Didn't make any mistakes, man. I've seen people hitting the wall in front of me, behind me. You just got to be smooth to get into a rhythm, and had some pretty good pit work too. Yeah, long way to go, but just don't make any mistakes, and you should be, like I said, you should be in the top 10 at the end of this thing.
You know, a lot of races like this, I think the strat, at least in these qualifying portions of the races, just to get the big show is to, you know, stay out of trouble, don't make many mistakes, almost not necessarily drive it to the fullest potential you can, just keep it out of the wall. Is that kind of your strat tonight? Are you kind of feeling things out? You've been a big mover, but, I mean, are you planning to just kind of feel things out the next 50, 60 laps, or are you just trying to get to the front now?
I am not trying to get to the front now, man. You've got a lot of fast guys up here. Cody Dutton in front of me, Garrett Maines, Coke Series driver. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to the front, so I'm just taking care of this thing and keeping the fenders on it and letting the chips fall where they may right now.
That's very important. Brandon Brown, in-race reporter, currently sitting 11th, gained 11 spots since the start. Brandon, thank you for the time.
No problem.
I know we can't call him Texas Terry, although that's where the inspiration is on that SimSeed Chevy to Labonte's 94 Kellogg's entry. So instead of Texas Terry, I don't know if we can go with like blue Chevy Brown or what, but nice touch there, throwing it back to Terry Labonte. And listen, he listened to me. The win, is it nice? Yeah. But just strategize. And I think, what did he say first hit off? I haven't made mistakes. That's going to be critical, I think, for a decent percentage of the transfers.
He mentioned that, don't make a whole lot of mistakes. I mean, you're going to have people overdrive their car. You're going to have wrecks happen just throughout the race. If you keep everything straight, more than likely, you're going to end up where you need to be. I mean, he's not trying to go out and win the race. I mean, yeah, it's great. You get the win, but you don't get a trophy. You don't get any money for this. You want to get in the big race where you have a chance to get the trophy and the money.
Yeah, not bad to go for the two. For just an update on the 24 cars who started this race, I believe Max Brady, Brett Puncari, and Liam Sheen are all out of this race. And it's going to be a tough night for the likes of Jason Coe, Dylan Hastings, and S.C. Martin because they are off of the lead lap. Of course, hoping to get a lucky dog a little bit later on. Pace truck back down it in this restart. We'll see 92 laps to go from Darlington to Peterson back in front on 2 tires.
Again, our leader getting a great start there, kind of spreading the field out. Chad Peterson back out the lead. Garrett Maines shuffled back to 4th. Not sure what happened on pit road there, but get shuffled back to 4th. Peterson again out in the lead. Single file all the way back. I believe he
and
went
so far
tires.
They're holding. Yeah, both Peterson and Dutton on the 2 tires. So we'll see how long this works. They have the jump. You're looking at about compared to on the restart 28 or so lap older left side tires for the race leaders and everybody else. If it works out well, you could see the strategy implemented a little bit later on this evening. Of course, we mentioned off at the top, these drivers have 6 total sets of tires available tonight, 5 additional sets on the pit box, of course, in addition to the set that they start with. But if the 2 can work, you may see drivers not using anywhere near that full allotment. Looking in the middle of this battle and looking off and now the race leader, Chad Peterson. Dutton, in fact, holding strong. And the last lap by, they were faster than Mario Miranda in 3rd on the 4 tires behind them.
Yeah, they were. You mentioned tires earlier. They get 5 sets of tires in the pits in addition to the set that they started with on the car. A lot of drivers might go with that last set of tires, probably about 20, 30 to go if we have a caution there. But you might see a lot of drivers try to stretch those tires out a little further. That way, if we get down to the nitty-gritty with 10 to go or so, we have a late caution. That way, they have an extra set of tires in their back pocket, hopefully try to make that last stretch one to get the win or to get the top 10.
And right on the fence means that you are on the limit every single time. Dutton looked like he was setting up a look for the race lead. Went high, cut low off a 2. Probably had the speed if this was, lap 115, but not at 35. He opts to lay out of the gas a little bit, stay in line. But if Miranda starts to pressure more and more, you can never forget about Garrett Maines there in 4th position as well. Then maybe Dutton will have his hand forced to be a little bit more aggressive with Peterson up front. But at least early off of this restart, 2-tire call, working pretty good from the race lead.
It seemed like, a lot of the time of this track, you're going to burn up the right side tires of your car. So I would imagine that they saw something on pit road or they saw something in practice if they got a long enough run where said, might not need to take left side tires on every stop. If they can get away with getting a few extra spots by just taking 2, you could see a lot of drivers doing that instead of taking 4. Of course, it never hurts to have 4 feel goods on the car, but again, we'll have to see what strategy plays out the rest of the race.
And with the longer pit stops as well, I mean, it's all relative to everybody. It's not like somebody's pit stop shorter than somebody else's, but since the pit stops are longer too, maybe you do find more of an advantage in playing a little bit of the strategy game. Would you like to get 4 tires each time? Yeah. Am I willing to give up 20 seconds every time I'm on pit road? I don't know. That's where the strategy comes into play. Again, though, as you look up towards and these race leaders head down to turn number 1, Peterson got the fence in turn 4 for probably at least the 10th time tonight. It opened up the door and Cody Dutton goes to the race lead. So Chad Peterson has been very good. His speed is great, but it's those little mistakes, Dylan, that are consistently what's opening up the door and putting him on the back end of these fights.
It's probably not going to necessarily be who the fastest driver of the race is going to be the one that makes the least mistakes. And, it's just kind of death by 1,000 paper cuts. He's probably run the fastest laps in the field, but if you keep clipping the wall like that, every 5 laps or so, those are going to add up, and then suddenly, those small paper cuts become a big gash, and you're just bleeding yourself out in this race.
It's going to be, death by 1,000 cuts if you keep getting into the fence little by little. Not hurting the race car, but it's hurting your track position. And here we go now. Here's the challenge. Miranda looking to the bottom, but just as the 99 wants to get under the 37, Garrett Maines is back. That offer pad Chevy has shown to be, I think, the strongest car in the field tonight. The big hustler, positions gained, but even he has some patience. Could have forced the issue. This is not a racetrack that I would dare take it 3 wide, and Garrett will try to wait once more. Now that Miranda's not over the back of Peterson, it could be an opportunity, but again, when you lift and you give a little, you have about a lap to make that up. He was about 6 car lengths off of those 2 down the back straightaway, already back within 1.
Yeah, that's another thing, you mentioned earlier. It's a matter of pride here. Is Garrett Maines probably thinking, I'm going to go out and win the race? He'd like to, but who knows if he's kind of weighing the pros and cons of, do I want to go out and win and risk wrecking my race car and have to run another qualifying race? Or he's saying, I'm just content in 4th place, and he'll just worry about the big event on September 6th.
And just looking through the field, you've got other drivers up big. Anthony Burrows has been a little bit quiet, but he's now in a transfer position after starting 16th. He's in 8th, just behind all of this scrapping inside of the top 5. So plenty going on throughout the field. Here's the onboard perspective from your bubble driver. Colton Zimmer started 3rd in this race, but it has just been a slow trickle backwards as he ends up in P10. The driver challenging him, Logan Helton, about, I would say, 8 car lengths back, a decent gap to that 63.
I was able to talk to Logan Helton the other night. He was very excited about competing in a race like this because, a lot of big events, they run him at a super speedway, or he has the for sale sign on the front of the car. That's pretty good if he's looking for sponsorship. But, he was excited to run this race because it's something different. It's a hard-to-drive car mixed with a very fun racetrack. Of course, if you keep scraping the wall and knocking it down, it becomes very not fun very quickly. But just a lot of drivers seem to have that same message going on. So, of course, want to make it into the big show, have a chance to get the money and the trophy. But it's just something fun. It's something new.
Yeah, that's I think the best thing you can get from it is Garrett Maines again using the inside of turn 4 to challenge, and give credit to Mario Miranda in this one. The 2 was right alongside him, but felt like he was going to get the run off of the corner, fought him off. I think the concern for Miranda is what we've seen to a couple of other drivers, right? If you let that first car go, look behind them. Kevin Champagne, Garrett Conrath. You can go 3rd to 6th real quick if you're Miranda, if Maines gets around you. So I don't really think he cares if Garrett Maines passed him, but once 1 guy gets around, then 2, then 3, then you're in the back half of the top 10, and that's where it gets concerning. So I think that's why we're seeing a little bit more pushback from the 99 on this run than when we saw Maines make the move on him last time through.
Now, I think you could see, here a couple laps of Maines is just still breathing down his neck. He might say, oh, forget it. You could go by. And then, even if he lets him go by as they're side by side again, if he lets him go by, there's only 2 cars behind him. There's a wide gap. As he gets a little loose, he's into the wall. And he might end up giving these 2 spots away anyway. But, no harm, no foul as long as the car is still fine. But he'll only fall back to 7th. He'll still be soundly in the transfer to the big race.
Well, that's what I get for saying that he was doing a good job fighting him off, is that he puts it in the fence. So I'll take blame for that one, as they're all going to go to the outside to get around S.C. Martin. Up the road, Garrett Maines is being hounded by Champagne. He got touched in turn 1 by Martin. Of course, Martin had that earlier incident tonight. It got Garrett a little bit sideways. A great save by the number 2. He races on, but that touch stinted the momentum just a little bit. It's opened up the door for Champagne, for Conrad to follow him through. Garrett Maines has a very fast race car, but it's not like he's the fastest car by a mile. There are a lot of really good race cars here, all concurrently kind of working their way through the field, trying to catch those top 2. Dutton still leading Peterson. Remember, those were the drivers who took just 2 tires. They lead Garrett Maines and company by 1.5 seconds, but that gap is slowly starting to shrink lap after lap.
Now, we saw the SC Martin machine make a little contact with Garrett Maines. Looks like Maines is okay, but that's something that we'll see if this goes green for long periods of time. You know, to start the race, we didn't have a terribly long green flag run. We had about 20 laps, I believe. You're going to start to see lap traffic, just a battle of attrition, see how much guys are burning up their tires. As we have yellow on the racetrack, I jinxed it. Evan, I jinxed it.
You pulled a me.
I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but...
No, it's not. I am notorious for jinxing some yellows. I've had some rough ones over the years, and we'll take a look. I mean, SC Martin, we talked about the contact with Garrett Maines, and I wonder if he was trying to do the opposite here, right, to give a little bit of extra room, but... Yeah, I don't know what else to say, but you got to be able to do better than that.
That's our in-race reporter who's caught up in that Brandon Brown. Looks like he might be able to keep going. Probably won't need the quick repair just yet, but holy cow, I don't... Yeah, like he just overdrove it. I don't know what happened there.
I don't know what's better, if it was on purpose or if it was on accident, because I don't really think either excuse. Remember, again, it's very similar to how he got into Maines, which is where I'm going to get the benefit of the doubt in this one. Here's Theodore's view as those two cars tangle into the outside wall. A lot of smoke. Where do I go? Where do I go? They both split the middle. What a job to keep that one a two-car wreck, but a rough night turns worse for Martin, and he is going to go to the garage. His night is done. Not a very good showing. Second time tonight, though, all of your race leaders going to come down to the pit lane. Remember, your top two only took 2 tires last time. Let's see what Dutton and Peterson do this time through, and if it worked so well, Dylan, do other drivers do that this time?
I think you could see that. You might just see drivers for these first couple stops. Of course, we're at lap 50. I think for the next stop and the stop after, you could probably see them just taking 4, just say, forget it. I'll just see how tires are going. Then take a bunch of notes. You know, this was a longer run than our first run. It was longer than our first run, so you could probably see, you know, I didn't burn up my left sides too much. I could probably get away with just taking rights and not taking as much fuel. But again, we'll have to see what goes on.
Popular call, the first 5 cars off of pit road, 2 tires only. It includes Dutton and Peterson. Again, 2 tires. They'll maintain the race lead. So Cody Dutton in control early here tonight from Darlington. We'll take an opportunity to step aside. You're watching the Retro 500 qualifying race on Podium Esports. And back live from the virtual Darlington Raceway, where Podium's coverage of the Retro 500 qualifying nights is brought to you by McConey Setup Shop. The McConey Setup Shop is your home for iRacing setups and the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports. From legends to cup cars, we've got you covered with dirt setups available for late models, modifieds, and wind sprints as well. At McConey Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories. Their newest book, How I Drive, featuring a foreword by NASCAR Cup Series driver Anthony Alfredo, is now available. Come learn from the pros how to be the best driver you can be. You can visit McConeySetupShop.com for more information. Welcoming you back into the broadcast booth. My name is Evan Pasoko alongside Dylan Connolly and our producer Ryan Bauer. Of course, talking about McConey Setup Shop. Dylan, this fixed setup for this qualified race number 1 for the Retro 500, brought to you by our friends at McConey Setup Shop. And it has been a very even playing field thus far. We really haven't seen one driver able to run away from anything, but the pit strategy and tires have all of a sudden turned into a big story.
Yeah, that's, you know, we saw it on the first stop. You know, we had our top two take 2 tires, and they seemed to tread water good enough. They were able to stay up front. So don't know if that's going to be the strat for the whole night. If you're going to mix it up, take 2 tires on the first one, just see what happens, and then just take mental notes. You probably see a lot of drivers do that. There's still plenty of race going on, but you know, with the McConey setup shop, Jeff McConey, one of the best in the business, you'll see a lot of drivers as the pace truck heads off. You know, they might be just testing stuff and just seeing how things go.
We'll see how this one shakes through. Your lead 2 rows all on 2 tires only. Green flag flies. 71 laps to go.
Like John Theodore getting loose going into turn 1. He's going to lose a couple spots here. Gets shuffled back to 6th place. Cody Dutton in the lead now.
And here comes Champagne looking up the inside in 3. Theodore not going to fight that one off too much, so Champagne goes up to position number 6. And trying to go for the double is Colton Zimmer, working hard. Didn't have the speed off of the corner. He will tuck it back in line, but there you see the shot off of the back. It's landed. Mills, big swing. He'll go to the inside, squeeze the 09. What a tight battle. And again, Colton Zimmer saying, I want nothing to do with that. He backs out, and that's another spot for Mills.
It's the proverbial game of chicken. You know, you put the fender out there, you get side by side. They're just going to see who brakes first, who blinks first, and just you're going to see a lot of drivers trying to do that.
And the battle for 10th position. This is the bubble. It belongs to Wesley Haynes, but for how long? Mario Miranda, who ran up front for so much of this race, finds himself back here after a 50-second stop on pit road for damage repair, that time under the yellow flag. So with some work to do, looking to the inside in 3, up front, Peterson chasing your race leader, Cody Dutton, as he tries to keep him in check.
Look like our top 3 on the restart. Dutton, Peterson, and Conrad all took 2 tires. Maines and Anthony Burrows moved up to 5th, by the way. Walter in the top 5 for the first time tonight. They all took 4 tires on back.
And that's the safe call, right? If we have a long run, I think it's kind of interesting that for Dutton and Peterson, right, they've doubled up on 2 tires only. Everybody else had gotten 4 tires, about, say, 28 or so laps ago to this point. So you would be thinking, well, if they took 2 the first time, aren't they due for a 4-tire stop? No, they went for the rights again. So they don't feel like there's for all the tire wear that we've talked about, they clearly don't think the left side's that critical.
And as much as you know, these cars get loose going into the corner, and as much as you have to turn the car, it seems like only the right side tires would wear a whole lot. Of course, you're going to have wear no matter what, but as slick as the track is, you're going to be using up the right sides more, I would think. So I think 2 tires is not the wrong call, but you know, 4 tires will still always be the safe bet.
Oh, and a big bobble that time off of the corner for race leader Cody Dutton. He got sideways in 4, and he's going to drop all the way back. Look at Garrett Maines go. The 2 car came off of turn 4 in 4th position, and he's got the lead by the time they got down to turn 1. Watch this one again.
He heads down to 3 and 4. Maine's train is chugging. He's like, oh, I'm getting to the front. He goes to the inside. Holy cow, what a great save by our leader. He shoots the middle. He didn't even think about lifting, and he goes from 4th to 1st in about a corner and a straightaway. What a great move by Garrett Maines.
Remember, Maines was the driver leading before we had a pit cycle, and when we started to see drivers mix up strategy with 2 tires and all of that, that's what relegated him back into track positioning. So now that he's back in the clean air, can he run away with this one? Hotly contested by Peterson. I mean, Peterson, I've said it once, I'll say it again, has had really good speed tonight. His only thing is that he's looking for a little bit of consistency and limiting some of the mistakes, and chasing down a guy like Garrett Maines is no small order, as he does his best to keep the number 2 honest and actually pulling away just a little bit from Conrath in 3rd. It's Burrows. How about this? A race high P4. Cody Dutton, a race high P5. So for Burrows and Dutton, both of those drivers did not qualify. Started on the grid on provisionals outside of the top 15, but find themselves right up and in the mix now.
It'll just be boring if you just started up front, so I'd imagine they just said, oh, well, you know, we're going to qualify or not even qualify, just start at the back, just see what happens. I think they just did probably just be interesting.
Yeah, just have a bit of excitement to it, right? As if half the drivers getting sent home wasn't enough of drama for them. Nah, we'll just come through and race it out. And like I said, a lot of drivers entered late into this session, didn't even get the opportunity to get some practice laps in until we actually got down trackside. So that was interesting to see as well, some of those late entries and how they're kind of learning on the fly as this race progresses. This time by, though, we are halfway home from Darlington. Let's take a look top to bottom with our iRacing midway race break, brought to you by iRacing. iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, and all from your home PC. You can race virtually in Australian supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and many more. Your race leader at the Cross Flags is Garrett Maines. After starting back at P6, one of the best cars long run tonight, he has about a half a car length advantage over your pole sitter, Chad Peterson, all over the deck lid of your leader. Peterson obviously wanting to get the win in this qualifying race. Behind them, one of the quieter drivers of those up front, the Nexus entry, Garrett Conrath, started 5th. He's in 3rd, and then the aforementioned big movers. Anthony Burrows started this race in 16th. He's up to 4th. Cody Dutton started 19th. He's up to 5th, ahead of Kevin Champagne in P6. Landon Mills is 7th. John Theodore in 8th. Colton Zimmer running in 9th position. And your bubble car is Mario Miranda right now in P10.
I've noticed that Garrett Maines, his times have dipped a little bit, just a hair. So I'm not sure if he's pushing fully. He might just be doing enough just to stay out front, but I could just see him, not pushing until he has to. You mentioned earlier, well, does he just set sail and just take off? That might not be the right move now because you got a lot of race left. Who knows? This could go green to the end, and might want to conserve some tire as much as you can because I believe we'll have one more pit stop coming up in this race. So I just think Garrett Maines is he's just kind of chilling out front right now.
And that's where that call for the 4 tires, the safe one, could really help you on the long end. And we're not missing much in that battle for the bubble spot because Miranda's got it. He's more than 2 seconds ahead of Wesley Haynes. And Haynes into the fence and contact with Nathan Jurgensen. They are all over each other in a battle for 11th and 12th. Jurgensen takes the spot. Haynes drops, and all of that broke out kind of out of nowhere. Just ahead of Logan Helton in 13th. Roslow Harlow in the number 14 spot, and Brandon Zimmerman in your top 15. Just ahead of Daniel Hendry 16th, and then Jake Ham in 17th position is the last driver on the lead lap at this moment. Dylan Hastings is 3 laps down at 18th position. Brandon Brown out of this race after that contact in turn 1, 19th. Jason Coe 20th, and then some retirees for the likes of S.C. Martin, Max Brady, Brett Punkari, and Liam Sheen in 24th position. That's a look top to bottom at your iRacing midway race break with over 170,000 drivers on the service and over 90 laser scanned tracks and cars to choose from. iRacing is your portal to the racing world. With iRacing, every day is race day. Get on track at iRacing.com.
I mentioned everyone kind of had a lot of drivers. Their times have kind of dipped, so I don't know if they're just kind of waiting out, realizing they have one more pit stop. But you can see a lot of drivers just being conservative now. A lot of them are just realizing, hey, I'm a Kevin Champagne sitting at 6th place. I'm fine right here because I know that'll get me into the big show here in a couple of weeks. I won't need to enter another qualifying race if I just chill right here. So you can see a lot of drivers doing that. But once we get in the bubble spot, you can see a lot more drivers taking chances. As we have our in-race reporter, Brandon Brown. Brandon, how's it going so far?
It's been better. It's certainly been better. Just kind of biding my time and got kind of wiped out by a lap car there. Thought he was going to, let me go into one, and then, well, you guys saw what happened.
Did you have much damage from that?
I had about 3 minutes, and you talk about not making mistakes. Well, I had already used my fast repair. I had it clicked on for about 5 seconds of early damage, and So race over for me. Just got the rest of the damage fixed. Gonna kind of mosey on around here and make some laps because this is fun.
And that's, you know, all that matters. A lot of the drivers I've talked to say, you know, this is fun. It's a good track car combo. It's something different from the Cup car. So what have you noticed in this race? You've ran over 100 laps here, you know, in practice qualifying and in the race so far. What are some of the differences you've seen compared to driving this car to the Cup car here at Darlington?
Oh, I mean, you could just feel it in the wheel. You can feel the car kind of lean over and throttle. I mean, throttle control. It's I would say it's less touchy, just more raw. You know, it just feels more like a car in real life almost. And it's just, in my opinion, this is the best oval car on the service to drive. It's just so much fun.
Of course, Dale Jr. having a big influence on this car, getting a lot of input from people who worked on these cars and drove these cars back in the 1980s. Any sponsors you want to thank so far tonight?
Yeah, for sure. Number one, Sim Seats. I'm here sitting in my Sim Seat, driving for Sim Seats. So big shout out to those guys. XR, got my XR shirt on. My current job and what I'm doing right now. And Maconi Setup Shop, I think they made the setup for tonight's race. And Jeff's awesome. And yeah, and a big shout out to Gavin who put this paint scheme together last minute for me. Was really cool of him to do that.
Now, one last question: is that a throwback to Terry Labonte, that scheme?
Yes, it is. I'm glad somebody got it. Texas Terry, man, that was always one of my favorite paint schemes growing up. That 94 through about 99 Terry Labonte paint scheme. So you got it.
That's a great looking scheme. Well, hopefully luck turns around. You know, plenty of race. Who knows? A lot of cars could get knocked out of this race and get back on that lead lap. We'll see what happens. And if not, we'll see you next week.
Yeah,
Brandon.
No problem. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Blue Chevy Brown in that Sim Seats entry, not the night that he wanted. But listen, like you said, fun cars, fun to drive. He's going to get back out there, log some laps anyways, and maybe an opportunity for him to try again next Wednesday night. Of course, this is just the first of 4 qualified races here on Podium. We'll be back next Wednesday evening for qualifying race 2. We'll lock another 10 cars in, and eventually, by the time we get to the end of the month of August, we'll have our 40-car field. Of course, you can register at podiumesports.com/retro500 to get in on the action. I don't know, Dylan, you wanna get behind the wheel for one of these?
I'm thinking about it. I might have.
Because I won't. I'm not publicly embarrassing myself, so I'm gonna nominate you.
Well, I mean, people laugh at me anyway, so what's the worst that could happen? I mean, I make it.
Worst case scenario, you make the show.
Yeah, the worst case scenario, I just go out and win, then it just looks more embarrassing. So. But I will say, I've watched a lot of these cars. You saw them in practice, and I did some testing. And I was like, man, that's pretty fun. I thought about it, but it's more fun to be, you know, I'll say it, fun to be side by side with you in the booth here, Evan.
There you go. Got one in. Speaking of somebody who's been going side by side a lot, but he's been on the losing end of the battles, has been Colton Zimmer. He was your bubble driver a little bit ago, and now he is wrecking. Look out, nearly gets cleaned out by Roswell Harlow. That was a long time coming. Zimmer had lost a spot the last couple of laps. His tires were gone. You can see him struggling with it off of the corner. He had fallen from 10th to 12th. And just as I bring it up, this happened. In turn 3 and 4, yeah, little bit loose. I mean, that's late in the corner for somebody to be getting loose. I mean, his tires were not having fun, and now we have a yellow in the second half. Good piece of driving. Again, another example of could have been worse, but that's a tough break for the guy that was in not that long ago. Here's Harlow's perspective. Look out at a turn 4 through the smoke.
You know, I have been watching. It's something I kind of noticed. I was going to mention it if it kept going on, but I noticed that Zimmer's time had kind of dipped. He had been about 4, 5, 6/10 of a second slower than a couple cars in front of him. So I was wondering if his tires were going out or if he was just saving. And I think we got our answer. It looked like his tires were worn out. But now he'll have a chance to get 4 fresh tires if he chooses. And looks like everybody else is going to come down, try to get some tires too, it seems like.
And they have the tires available, so they are headed down pit road for service. It could be, depending on how the end of this race shakes out, one of the last times you see your race leaders on pit road inside of 50 laps to go. Garrett Maines, last time he was leading at a yellow, he lost the race lead due to a little bit of pit strategy. Let's see how this one shakes out. He's got a longer road down to pit stall number 6.
again, it comes down to the point, those drivers that have taken 2 or taken 4, if they've noticed something, if your left side tires aren't as worn out as you probably think they might be, if you just could get away with just taking 2, or I don't think you'll see anybody just take fuel at this point, as Garrett Maines looks like he just took 2 tires.
Well, that's the strategy that beat him last time, so he said not again. And he decides to go for the 2-tire call. So does Dutton, so does Theodore, so does Jurgensen. Anthony Burrows, P5, with the first car out on fresh tires. We'll step aside once more from Darlington. It's qualifying race 1 for the Retro 500.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that Makoni Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, Five Flags Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at Makoni Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, Makoni Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to MakoniSetupShop.com and learn why Makoni Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing.
And remember, at Makoni Setup Shop, there are setups, but your victories.
Back live from Darlington, South Carolina. Coverage of tonight's qualified race for the Retro 500 brought to you by Martin Sports. Founded by Scott Martin nearly 10 years ago in the frozen region of Michigan's Upper Peninsula, Martin Sports drives for the best custom apparel for your needs. Whether you need shirts for your office, jerseys for a local sports team, or specially designed apparel for your sim racing group, Martin Sports has got you covered. Along with shirts and other team wear, they also offer gloves specially crafted for sim racing that are lightweight, breathable, and complete with padded leather palms. If you want to learn more, you can find them at martinsports906.com or at facebook.com/martinsports. Of course, it wasn't a good start to the night for S.C. Martin. He is out of the race, but happy that he's a partner of us here with Podium. He'll probably try again. I think in another one of these as we near the end of qualifying race 1 for this throwback night of racing and kind of the whole month here on Podium. First of many nights here for the Retro 500, and happy that you are joining us here on this Wednesday evening. So again, the story through pit stops is the tires. Dylan Connolly, your top 4, 2 tires only, 5th on the back 4, but I haven't seen any indication tonight that the 4 tires are better. It's going to need, I think, probably this race to run itself out to the end for 40 plus laps for this to pay off. We'll see how it shakes out. Garrett Maines is in control at a turn 4.
They head down to turn 1. You see a lot of cars on the apron. Look like 2 or 3 cars trying to enter the corner on the apron, which, I mean, isn't, you could enter that way if you're trying to kind of diamond the corner, but I don't think there's enough room for cars to do that as the field gets spread out again on that restart by Garrett Maines.
Well, it's exactly what Maines wants, but he is under fire by Cody Dutton. You talk about big movers. How about plus 17? For Cody Dutton, who started this race in 19th position. He is up in P2 and he wants more, but too much counter steer as they both got a little bit squirrely in 2. Hit the reset button and try again, but he was looking for the lead. Dutton is not going to be somebody to sit here and be content with 2nd.
No, I don't think he is. You got to be careful, though, if you're in that position. He is soundly in to the big show. So he might just be trying things, seeing what works, what doesn't. But there comes a point where if you just stop and think, he's sitting in 2nd place, he's 8 spots ahead of the transfer, and he's been in the transfer for majority of the race. So in my head, I would think, I wouldn't want to, risk anything. Of course, the win's great. I mean, a Coke driver, it'd be 2 Coke drivers actually, but I mean, there's no difference between finishing first or finishing 10th. Again, because qualifying in the big event on September 6th on Labor Day is all going to happen in the server.
That is the end goal. 4 nights of qualifying. Tonight, night number 1, we've seen a handful of different race leaders. Garrett Mates has been the driver that has felt a little bit inevitable at times. Look how far ahead those first and second place cars are from everybody else. It is a hornet's nest. Third on back. Anthony Burrows and other drivers try to make some passes, but Cody Dutton could be the surprise here. We were talking about it earlier, and there are 2 cars that look like this. That is not Dutton that we're on board with. That's Kevin Champagne back in P6. Not to get him confused, but Dutton's the question mark here. I wonder what he can do late as Burrows tried to pass low. Champagne countered high, but man, did he have a stanky leg in turn 1. What a catch.
Did you say a stanky leg?
That's the only way to describe that. That's got to be accurate. Come on, you saw that thing shaking.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. We're trying to go for the retro theme here. I don't know what dance moves are popular in the 80s because, really wasn't alive at that point. But
yeah, ditto.
I'll give you that.
Either way, he could have wrecked the car. He saved it. That's certainly better than ended up in the fence. I think most people, if they got that sideways, would have got a Darlington stripe or 2 out of it. So good stuff by Champagne to hang on. And now you ride on board with Helton. First driver on the outside looking in. Mario Miranda is the bubble driver. There he is. Tail end of this huge pack of cars that spans from 3rd position all the way back to 10th. He has a lot of incentive to make a move on a guy like a Conrath up the road, like a Chad Peterson, who's at a race low P8 after starting on a pole, because anytime you can put somebody in between you and the bubble, it's good news. Here's Peterson's view.
Yeah, that's a big deal. You might, in a race like this, where your goal is not just, win the race is great, but if you finish in the top 10, you get to move on. Finishing 9th the same as finishing 2nd, same as finishing 4th, same as finishing 6th. So you might see more calamity and a better finish and a better race for the 10th position than you will for the actual lead. Now, that's not saying that the race for the lead won't be entertaining as well, but you could see something crazy happen back along that 10th, 11th, the 12th position back there.
I just don't think we've seen at any point tonight this tight of racing, right? This many laps off for the restart. I don't think we've really seen the race leaders get this far ahead at a 2-car breakaway, but we haven't seen this much mid-pack. So it goes to show you these drivers realizing inside of 40 laps to go, it's go time. You look at off of the back of Miranda, pretty stable at the moment over Logan Helton. But if this battle in front of him, all those cars, if they start to stack up just a little bit, and that's going to be all Logan Helton needs to close the gap, get into the conversation, and get all over Miranda. And as the tail car in this group, not much he's going to be able to do about that. A lot of fun in between the likes of Chad Peterson, Kevin Champagne, and others. They are all infighting inside of the top 10 as Maines and Dutton continue to pull away. This is the battle on track right here.
On the famous words of Jim Ross, looks like business is about to pick up. We're getting to the nitty-gritty. It's 34 to go. There's no more riding around now. If you're sitting in 8th, or if you're like an Anthony Burrows who's been rotating between 5th and 6th, you might think about moving up, to that 4th, get as many cars between you and that transfer spot. If you're a Chad Peterson sitting in 8th, you might try to, bustle your way into 7th, but not try anything crazy because you don't want to wreck yourself out of 8th and then end up out of the transfer spot having to qualify again. But it's starting to pick up here at Darlington.
That is the big thing to keep in mind, is the top 10. It's all that really matters in this race. Maines, Dutton, those guys want to race for the win, no doubt. But top 10 is all that matters. You do not want to be that guy that makes a mistake, getting a little bit greedy, and not being happy with 8th, wanting 7th, and instead you wreck yourself out and you finish 16th. Nobody wants to be that guy. So how do you balance that drive, that desire as a race car driver to push late in this race? How do you balance that with the logic maybe on your other shoulder that's telling you, hey, we're in. Take it easy. We'll see how this plays out. And of course, Helton can be a big factor because if he puts more and more pressure on from 11th, look at the gap closing between Miranda and Helton. If he keeps putting pressure on, it is going to force them to be a little bit more aggressive, and that's how you make mistakes.
Of course, put pressure on anybody. Great example of, not letting the pressure get to you. Graham Boland last night, the Coke Series race, he had two of the best road course racers breathing down his neck the entire night. They were banking on, Graham's going to try to make a mistake here. Never made a mistake. So you might see a lot of drivers try to force the issue, try to throw, little jabs at whoever's in front of them or around them, try to just make a mistake, see if they can't catch another spot or get into the top 10.
And it's especially at a track like this, we have seen a lot of unforced errors. We've also seen a lot of forced errors. Tonight, Dutton sideways, right on cue. Nearly makes a mistake off of turn number 4. We have seen a lot of that. If there is any racetrack in the world where I just want to be close because there's a chance somebody makes a mistake, this track is that place. Darlington is such a tricky challenge, even on your own, let alone late in this race with everything that's on the line. Inside now of 30 laps to go. Here's Helton's view. Continues to close on the battle for P8 up the road, but all he cares about is that 99.
Yeah, Mario Miranda's looking at his rearview mirror. That 63 is getting bigger and bigger in his rearview mirror, but at this point, you don't want to drive through the mirror. You want to drive through the windshield, of course, because you can get yourself in trouble if you're driving in the mirror and you're worried about what's behind you instead of course, what's in front of you.
That's where you need a little bit of discipline, and also if you got a live spotter in the sim as well, but it's not going to matter. Caution with 29 laps to go. We'll slow him down and try it again. Is it an issue with Colton Zimmer? 12th position at the time, and I think the replay will show that he had a little bit of assistance on this one. Let's wind it back. Turn 2, lap number 95. He's coming off of the corner. Roswell Harlow's got the run, and yeah, right there. Left your quarter panel. You're not going to get away with that one, and it was a very lazy spin. He did what he should have, locked it up, prevented himself from getting into the inside wall. It certainly could have been a lot worse, but a tough break for both of those guys who were out of the picture and really just digging hard.
Yeah, it just looked like he got a little loose and had to check up, make sure he didn't slap the wall, but it just, he got run over. I mean, it wasn't anybody's fault. Just overdrove the corner a little bit, but he didn't hit anything, so he should be okay, get that little bit of damage fixed, or use the quick repair if he has to, so we'll see what happens.
Back down pit road again. Now your race leaders, everybody was just down 19 laps ago. This is the shortest interval in between pit stops we have seen all night long. That would tell me we're probably leaning towards some more two-tire stops. We'll see how this one shakes out, though. Main's into the box. Helton into the box as well from the bubble spot. What is the call going to be? Two-tire stops in about the 11-second range. Garrett Maines holding a long time, and he is going to drop significant positions on the race off of pit road. How about Dutton, Theodore, Jurgensen, and Burrows all getting out ahead of him?
Yeah, another thing that's going to be thrown into this, that last caution, if everyone took fuel and filled it up, they're good on fuel the rest of the way. There's no green, white checkers. Once this race hits lap 123, it's over. So you might have seen guys just take 2 tires and just, told the gas bag, hey, leave the fuel can. We don't need that anymore tonight. So you could see that play a part. And, if you don't take any fuel, but you just take 2 tires, that's going to be a lot different, since they've probably used up 9 or 10 gallons so far. Since that last pit stop might be different with just right side tires versus a full tank and right side tires.
Remains with the slowest by a large margin of the guys on 2-tire stops. He had 14.1 seconds in the box. I wonder if he was spending a little bit of time getting damage repairs, because that's significantly off of Cody Dutton, your leader off pit road, at 10.9 in the box. There's your times on the left-hand side. Of course, we talk about all of these exciting events coming up as we qualify for the Retro 500, but there is a lot more coming here on Podium in the next week that you can be sure to tune into, and it all continues tomorrow night with the next race in the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing Series. talking about Watkins Glen all week long, going road racing here on twitch.tv/Podium Esports and Podium 2 tomorrow night at 9 p.m. And then the SimMax Cup Series powered by MPI heads to Kansas on the 8th of August, I should say, 9:15 start right here at twitch.tv/Podium Esports. That is a full-length race. And then, of course, how about the 911 RSRs at the Homestead Miami Roval? Monday Night Racing. The playoffs continue on August the 9th, a 7:45 p.m. Eastern Time start on Podium 2. And the Operation eMotorsports iRacing League heads west to Laguna Seca. That one August 10th at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. You got to go over to youtube.com/Operation Motorsport to get coverage of that. And then we're back next Wednesday evening. The next race, qualifier number 2 for the Podium Retro 500, back here at Darlington at 9 Eastern Star. And then, of course, the regular season finale for the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series from Michigan International Speedway is Tuesday, August 17th at twitch.tv/iRacing. So inside of 25 laps to go, Dylan, ever since that two-tire call worked on the very first pit stop of the night, we've had at least about a half a dozen cars go for it. That time down pit road, more cars took 2 tires than took 4 of those that are competitive and towards the front of the field. I just don't know if I'm Champagne in 9th, the lead car and 4 tires. I'm not sure how much faith I got that I'm really going to be able to make something happen out of this. So this will be an exciting run to the end. Mills currently on the bubble spot in position number 10 will come to a restart with just 24 laps to go from the track. Too tough to tame. Green flag back in the air.
Well, it looked like Theodore was just asleep on that restart as Dutton's already out to a very sizable lead heading into turn 1, but everyone's single file on through back, the end of the pack.
Remember, those top 2 had such a big advantage when it was Garrett Baines out there on the last run. Can we see your race leaders break away? Cody Dutton has got a lot of speed through 3 and 4. His advantage is 0.8 of a second. Just 1 lap off of the restart. A masterful job for that 80 car to get way out in front.
You know, on a restart like that, that's a pretty big advantage. 0.8 of a second. It's not like it's small by any stretch of the imagination. You'll need more than a couple mistakes to make up that distance. See, all the cars get loose off of turn 2. It looks like it's go time now. I mean, they're not leaving anything on the table. If you're sitting out of that bubble, out of that transfer spot, I mean, there's no waiting around now. You're moving.
The battle you're watching is Kevin Champagne and Mario Miranda for 8th and 9th position. But here comes Mills, the bubble driver in the 25, trying to work his way through. You can cue the Jaws music on board with Roswell Harlow. He needs just 1 more position to lock himself in. And Miranda hits the fence at a turn 2. You got a spinner behind. Will we get a caution flag as Zimmerman's up against the inside wall? No, we will not. We stay green. Here comes Mills and Harlow all over the back of the 99 of Miranda.
To that tie machine or that tie throwback machine's loving what he's seeing in front of him. He's seeing these 2 cars duke it out in front of him and said, I might be able to take both these spots. Forget 10th. I might be able to get 9th also.
Oh, and it's all going to fall apart. Huge wreck off of turn 2. 4 cars involved. And it is calamity on the bubble. Again, Mario Miranda feeling the pressure, makes a mistake, and from 9th position, overdrives turn 2, hits the fence, Dylan, and there was nothing that Mills and company could do to avoid him. Watch it all start with that 99.
Yeah, he clips the outside wall, and there was no room for error there. He was going to come down and hit the Landon Mills machine, but, you know, it took out 8th, 9th, and 10th. So if you're Logan Helton, you just moved up 4 spots. You didn't have to do anything.
Hey, that's free spots. Here's the onboard perspective from behind. There's the hit to the outside wall. Yeah, that's some pretty good contact into the back of Harlow there. So that's scot-free for Helton, but we have seen drivers get away with some damage. The only concern I would have if I'm Logan Helton, is the fact that that's damage on the front of the race car, and that can always wreak havoc with the engine tap. So he is going to come down pit road. Here's Harlow's perspective. Right behind the battle, he was the 11th place driver when the contact happened. There was nothing he could have done, and I said that the end of this race would be defined by mistakes. Drivers who are in that wanted more and overstepped the boundary. And it's not necessarily the case there for Miranda. That's not Miranda overdriving the race car because he wanted another spot, Dylan. That was Miranda overdriving the car because he was fighting for his life with all of those drivers hounding him, but just got a little bit too aggressive with it. And that shows you how fine that line is here at the Lady in Black.
Yeah, at a track like this, where you could barely fit one car by themselves. I mean, two cars ain't going to work on the exit like that, especially if one hits the wall. So, I mean, it was just wrong place at the wrong time for that Tide machine or Tide throwback machine of Roswell Harlow. So we'll see if they get those cars fixed up and get back up here. But that just shows that was 20 to go. All the craziness happened at the transfer spot. I mean, we're a long way from home, Evan.
Yeah, and if we get some yellows here, remember I said, 40-something laps to go. Could it be the last time down pit road? Got another yellow, had more pitters. This time, obviously, none of your race leaders coming in. They were just in about 7-8 laps to go. But if you get yellows late, it's going to take numbers off the board, but it's really going to slow down this process. It's going to give Cody Dutton opportunities to make mistakes. And we talk about the shuffling up of the running order. How about Daniel Hendry? He's now in 9th position. Jake Ham is in to P10. When was the last time we talked about Ham? After starting in 23rd position, he was the last car on the lead lap no more than 40 laps ago. He has an opportunity now to race his way in. I mean, so much has changed, and I think if you're outside of a bubble, you probably don't want yellows. You want green flag racing to make up spots, because every lap you spend under yellow is a lap burn that you can't really do anything.
I think that's exactly right. He might have been just thinking this whole race, okay, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to stay out of trouble. I'm going to stay at the back. Just let stuff happen. And when I have to start pushing, I'll start pushing. And look, again, he was the last car on the lead lap. He was about 7-8 seconds ahead of the leader, about to get lapped when a caution came out earlier in this race. And now he's sitting in the transfer spot.
And now we'll see what else this late race drama has in store for us. Expecting the lights to go out on top of the pace car this time through. And we talk about all the different ways that you can get involved with this Retro 500 a month on Podium. Another way is to advertise with us here at Podium Esports. If your brand or business is interested in partnering with Podium, we have space available for you. Podium Esports has a plan for every budget and can custom tailor solutions to suit your business's or brand's needs best. For information on the wide variety of partnership possibilities, send an email to admin@podiumesports.com for more information. So Cody Dutton trying to win this race. The pitch strategy put Garrett Maines on the back end kind of quietly, Dylan, through that last run, as that Garrett Maines drove himself from about 7th or 8th up to P4. He still may be in contention to win. And then, of course, there's that battle for P10. What can Hendry and Ham do now that they've been thrusted into a top 10 spot?
Well, there's been an extra little bit thrown into the mix here. Take a look who's sitting in 13th. He fell back on that restart, took 4 tires. It's Anthony Burrows is back there fighting for the transfer spot, so that made it a whole lot more interesting as pace truck's off and Cody Dutton again going to get an early restart, try to get that lead. Heading into 1, he's got a big lead, about 0.8 of a second it looks like.
It's untouchable. I mean, he is so good on those restarts. He's already 0.6 ahead, and I don't blame him because look at this mess from P5 on to back. Garrett Maines, a little bit of a wobble in the center of the corner ahead of Chad Peterson, but at least single file in the top 5, not behind, near the bubble. Jake Ham on the inside, Logan Helton on the outside, side by side for the transfer, and Helton slides by on the outside.
And many are asking what the dog doing. The dog doing, he's trying to move up to 10th place, get that transfer spot. He took 4 tires on that last stop, but he slid back a little bit. But it's go time now. He's not trying to run to the qualifying race. He's trying to get into the show, man.
He wants to be in the main event, and Burroughs, somebody expecting to be there. Up front, Garrett Maines, underneath and around Nathan Jurgensen. You could move him up to position number 3. He'll set his sights on, how about John Theodore at a race high P2? He was involved in some close calls earlier in this race, has kept his nose clean, and he is in a very comfortable spot. Granted, I really don't want to be a guy with Garrett Maines breathing down my neck. Oh, behind them, into the wall is Chad Peterson from P5. He throws it all away. He's into the fence. He takes Champagne. There is no caution, and that is 2 top 7 cars gone in the blink of an eye.
I mean, that's gigantic right there. I mean, no caution. So you were just sitting in the transfer spot, and now you're out of it for what? I mean, it's just at this point a battle for pride, trying to see the big picture. Of course you don't want to do anything like that. For those that are racing here in the future in these qualifying races, you just want to take a look at the big picture for the most part. And at that point, it looked like a small mistake happened, then it turned a small mistake into a big mistake there.
And unfortunately for Champagne, not his mistake, right? He was just an innocent victim in all of that when it was the 37 machine who bobbled. And here's your look from high above. You can see it's loose, it hits the fence, and right there gets a little touch on Garrett Conrath, but it's Champagne who gets tagged and goes with him. Keeps it out of the fence, but again, with no caution flag, that's going to drop Champagne down to 15th position. Peterson has gone to the garage. His night is done. They were no more than 16 laps away from racing their way into the Retro 500, and it is gone in a matter of seconds. So with drivers dropping out of the top 10, new drivers race their way in. Logan Helton had to slide around the outside of Jake Ham to take P10. Well, that position is now 8th. So Daniel Hendry goes from 11th to 9th. And Mario Miranda will go from 12th to 10th. He is now the new bubble driver.
So another big move. Remember I just mentioned, seemed like a couple minutes ago, that Anthony Burroughs was sitting in 13th? Well, he's moved into the top 5 with those 4 fresh tires, and they're about 8 laps fresher than everybody else's. So he might try to get up there and see what happens. But, you know, the battle is going to be for 10th place between the Miranda machine and Jake Ham. Landon Mills having something to say about it, too.
Yeah, Mills has got a front row seat. I wonder if he wants to put the pressure on from 12th. He needs to get around both Ham in 11th and Miranda in the number 10 spot. What an up and down night it's been for Mario Miranda. Top car for the first half of the race, a bubble car for the second half. Same story for Landon Mills. Started 11th position, raced his way into the top 10, but finds himself on the back end late in this one. And with less than 10 laps to go, a mistake by Jake Ham. Gets the fence at 1 and 2, but Miranda appears to have the pace to hold both of them off as Ham hits the fence again, and Mills will drive past for P11.
Landon Mills just taking advantage of other drivers' mistakes. Again, that's going to be the big deal. Who's going to make the least amount of mistakes in that 8th spot, that 9th spot, all the way through 12th, even down to 13th? I mean, even if you're Brandon Zimmerman sitting in 14th, it ain't over yet. Who knows what could happen? They could all wad it up here in the next lap or come into the checkered flag. I mean, you still got a lot to race for even back there.
You're going to have to complete all 123 laps of this race. No more and no less. There will not be any green-white checkered overtime finishes, so the point of no return is at about 4 laps to go, and we get a yellow before that. So 1 restart left in us. It is Roswell Harlow from the number 13 position, but it was not without assistance. Kind of a weird one here. So Jake Ham is up the road, and we've seen how much Ham has been struggling off of turn 2, and he's really slow here. Looks like Harlow thinks high, then Ham pulls up. He tries to go low, and just that 85 was kind of right in the middle of everything, and got run over by the 65, who couldn't decipher what that car wanted to do.
I mean, it's hard to tell, you know. You don't know if some drivers just, if they're spinning out, they're just going to lock it down, or if they're going to try to save the vehicle. So, I mean, it's really, you don't really know what's going to happen. You know, I could say, well, I know, but nobody really knows what's going to happen in front of you in a situation like that.
A tough one, but it may breathe a little bit of life into those drivers because a caution flag will group the field back up. And how about a call on pit road? Landon Mills is pitting from the number 11 position. Kevin Champagne also down pit road. So Mills wants the tires, but he's going to give up at least 3 positions. He'll take a quick repair as well. The damage is gone on the back bumper of that number 25 Chevrolet as well. Will it be worth it? Because he's not going to have any more than maybe 3 laps to do something with those fresh tires.
Well, there's 2 things to that. He took the quick repair. Getting any damage is going to slow you down, even if it's by 100th or even 1,000. But every second is precious. But a lot of these drivers have been out on these tires now. We've had some cautions mixed in for about 21 laps, some 13, 14, 15 laps. But 4 tires, I think he's just putting all his chips out to the center of the table just to see, well, I'm going all in here. We're going to see what happens here. Of course, who knows? We could have a gigantic wreck like we had, at the middle of that green flag run earlier, or we could have another one where somebody just gets loose and runs over someone. So, we'll have to see if it pays off.
And I believe, just based on what's left on the scoring pylon, that this will end up being the last restart of the afternoon, no matter what. Lights on top of the pace car at 5 laps to go means that we can't go green anything sooner than 3 to go. We will not have another restart. Now, that doesn't mean we won't have another yellow. We got to get to the white flag for this race to be official and to race this one out. But this will be the final time we go through the motions and go through a restart. Dutton has been oh so good. I would be awfully surprised if this is where he stumbles. Does the pressure get to him? Can he stay locked in? He has had some of the best restarts we've seen out of anybody tonight on the last couple of restart attempts. So that's an important thing to keep an eye on for him. But that bubble continues to be the question mark. Miranda's there. Zimmerman picks up a spot. With the cars having pitted behind him. So does, you got Zimmerman and Harlow, I should say, 11th and 12th. They gain. Mills and Champagne in 13th and 14th will have fresh tires. That's, I think, the big question mark in my mind here is, can those guys on fresh rubber do it? Based on what I've seen tonight, I just don't think they can. However, chaos late may end up being their friend. Just be on track, I say, at the last lap of this race, and you got a shot.
We haven't really seen anyone just lick the stamp and send it. You might see a Landon Mills do that. He's got 4 fresh tires. He's used up his quick repair. If it works, he's in the show. If not, well, I'll just have a chance to qualify next week. But you might see your probably top 5 just be content with just sitting here. They don't want to make a stupid mistake where they end up out of the transfer position and wrecking. I think you could just see them. You'll still see guys trying to get the win like a John Theodore or Garrett Maines, but I don't think they'll do anything too drastic where it could end up in multiple wreck race cars that miss the show because of that.
And just looking through, Jake Ham is back on track in 15th. He's behind Mills and Champagne, so he could be somebody to stand to benefit from a little bit of chaos. Buckle up. It's been a wild, crazy, heart-stopping at times night here from Darlington, and we have 1 restart left to go. The iRacing pace truck going to dive down to the safety of pit road this time. And the field is in the hands of Cody Dutton. The top 10 make it to the Retro 500. 3 laps to go from Darlington.
And a big restart for Dutton there. He gets an 0.8 of a second lead, about 0.7 of a second now.
Oh, Garrett Maines! Garrett Maines got hit, and Nathan Jurgensen spins. Caution is out. This race is over. Zimmerman spins from 11th. Who's the top 10?
Looks like Landon Mills is going to be finishing 10th in this event after taking those 4 fresh tires. That's big. We mentioned, it ended up not really mattering. He could have just taken no tires, but, like we mentioned earlier, there could be a big incident like that where just pride takes over. You're trying to win the race, but you end up, just messing yourself up, and you'll have to run again next week if you so feel like it. That's just taking too big of a chance, in my opinion. Of course, you got 4th locked up, so, you end up going from being soundly in the bubble to you got to qualify again next week. Of course, if the final standings shuffle out the way that it looks like here, it looks like Landon Mills will make the show, but guys like Nathan Jurgensen, Brandon Brown, Kevin Champagne are going to miss the show in this race at least, but they'll have another opportunity soon.
And tricky because I was wondering what happened to Zimmerman, right? We saw the contact with Maines up the road. Zimmerman actually turned by Mills. That is where the contact came from for what is the transfer position in this race. So 2 bits of contact in turns 1 and 2. And we take the white flag under the caution. Just when I thought we had enough chaos and drama in this race. The guys up front are throwing it away. We're wrecking for the bubble spot. And this is just a qualifier. From race control, Landon Mills has been given an end of the longest line penalty for the contact late in this race with Brandon Zimmerman. That will promote Zimmerman to position number 10. And despite getting turned, Zimmerman will make the Retro 500.
That is a big development, obviously, in the race control's eyes that, you know, Landon Mills, there was some intent there. Race control did not think very highly of that. So it's going to end up being Brandon Zimmerman making the show, and Landon Mills will have to qualify again.
And meanwhile, how about Cody Dutton? He was so quiet for the first 2/3 of this race, but it came in late, dominant on the restarts, and Cody Dutton is qualifying race number 1 winner at Darlington Raceway, easily punching his ticket to the Retro 500. And arguably, I think, an early favorite based on what we saw late in this race. So many big names in this one. Burrows is going to make the show. Maines is going to make the show. But, yeah, he's in it. Does he have him on the car tonight, though? I don't think he had him on the car, so we'll have to work on that. Okay, he's on the left rear. So the car is legal. It passes post-race inspection. Burrows is good to go through because I don't think Tech was going to approve of it if he didn't have it. But Cody Dutton's got some celebrating to do. He passed 18 very talented sim racers to win this first qualifier.
I mean, unbelievable drive by Cody Dutton. Of course, other drivers, you know, just great drive by them, just staying clean. You know, Garrett Maines and Anthony Burrows were all just hanging out up front, kind of ahead of the calamity, and they just drove smart races. And John Theodore, too. It looked like he was fish dead in the water earlier. He had a lot of damage. He had rear end damage, and then he got it fixed, and he comes home second.
Good when it mattered the most. He is in to the big show. We'll take one last opportunity to step aside. We'll go to Victory Lane when we return. Cody Dutton is your qualifying race winner from Darlington. You're watching Podium Esports' coverage of the qualifying races for the Retro 500.
When you want to be the best, you can't settle for the rest. There's a reason that Makoni Setup Shop is trusted by more virtual and real-world tracks and companies than any other setup shop in iRacing. With partners such as Stafford Motor Speedway, the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway, Five Flag Speedway, Speed 51, and more. When you want something done right, you go to the experts at Makoni Setup Shop.
With setups available for most series on both asphalt and dirt, built by a team of professional builders consisting of some of the top talents on the service, Makoni Setup Shop LLC has what you need to hit the track with confidence. Head over to MakoniSetupShop.com and learn why Makoni Setup Shop is the official setup shop of Richmond Raceway Esports and is partnered with some of the largest names in virtual and real racing.
And remember, at Makoni Setup Shop, There are setups, but your victories.
Darlington Raceway, where Podium's coverage of the Retro 500 qualifying races got kicked off tonight with qualifier number 1. Happy that you're back with us for some post-race coverage. Upstairs in the broadcast booth, Evan Pasoko and Dylan Connolly will go trackside in just a moment. First, let's take a look at your Podium full race results. Cody Dutton gets the checkered flag again. This race finishes under the yellow flag, but all the drivers on your screen are in to the Retro 500. It includes your winner, Dutton, John Theodore, and Garrett Maines on the podium. We'll talk with all of them in just a moment. Ahead of Anthony Burrows 4th and Garrett Conrath in 5th. Logan Helton comes home P6. Daniel Hendry is 7th with Colton Zimmer in 8th. Mario Morena in the number 9 spot. And with that late race drama, Brandon Zimmerman, the final golden ticket in P10.
And back through 11, we have Kevin Champagne, Roswell Harlow in 12th, Jake Ham finished at 13th, Landon Mills. We're gonna have a replay of the incident at the end of the race there. Finished at 14th. Nathan Jurgensen 15th, Brandon Brown, our in-race reporter, 16th. Jason Coe bringing it home at 17th, and the rest of these drivers, a lot of attrition in this race. Chad Peterson led a lot of laps, was up front a lot of the race, bringing it home 18th. Dylan Hastings in 19th, and Wesley Haynes 40 laps down in 20th.
And at the back, these drivers did not make it the distance. Martin 21st, Brady 22nd, Punkari 23rd, Sheen 24th, Patterson DNS this afternoon at Darlington. So the big story here is the penalty issued by race control that takes Landon Mills from a qualifying position to out. Here is the contact on the restart. That's Mills looking to the inside, and as he dives into the corner, that is him driving through that 20 of Zimmerman. Of course, we saw the wreck in front, but Zimmerman's spin is what made the difference for the transfer spot, and Dylan Race Control took a look at it and said that this contact was avoidable, penalized Mills, and therefore, Zimmerman is in.
I mean, that's a big story. I mean, he just, again, like we mentioned earlier, we thought this would happen. Somebody was going to lick the stamp and sent it, but he sent it a little too hard, and, you know, he just cleaned him out. So he goes from finish at 10th to finish at 14th, not in the show, but I believe he'll have other opportunities to qualify into the show. But, I mean, that's big. I mean, you go from being into the show, being out. I mean, it's just a big difference of emotion there.
That is how it shook out back in the battle for 10th on the back. Let's talk to the driver up at the front of the field. Cody Dutton is qualifying race number 1 winner tonight from Darlington, South Carolina. Cody, thanks for jumping in and chatting with us, and congratulations on the win. You only needed a top 10, but you seem determined, especially in the final 1/3 of this race, to hold those guys off. Just talk us through your night.
Nobody's ever going to remember who finishes 9th in a qualifying race. So I started in the back, tried to make some excitement for my stream and try to have some fun with it, and capitalize on track position and pit strategy whenever we could, and just try to be careful and not get it in the fence too many times.
There's a couple of big movers and big names, right? The guys like Anthony Burrows back there with you, working through the field. What was the difference maker late? It looked like a lot of the time, and really with the pit strategy tonight, guys going with 2, guys going with 4, but the restart seemed to be where people would come under fire. And for whatever the reason, that 80 machine was untouchable leading to the green flag. Was that the difference maker with those late race restarts?
Yeah, absolutely. If you've got those guys packed up under your spoiler, it's hard to get away. But if you can really nail the restart, a lot of that comes from dirt track racing. If you watch that mirror and those guys are rolling up on you, and you know when to hit the gas, you can jump them by 2 or 3 car lengths, and that's all the difference.
Of course, tonight is a very different challenge than what you're going to undertake when we go racing in the main event in a couple of weeks on the 6th for the 500-mile race here. $500 on the line. What can you take away from a sprint race like this that can prep you for the Retro 500?
About the same, really, because you treat this like an endurance race. Even though it was only 123 laps, you still have to be patient. You can't put the car in the wall and can't get it in a bad situation. So patience is key, even for a 20-lap race here, in my opinion.
Well, you guys showed a lot of speed, and I said when you were doing the burnouts, maybe an early favorite based on how good you guys were late in this one. We'll let you get out of here, Cody. Hard work tonight to get qualified up. Before we do, sponsor shout out to those good folks. Who makes it happen for you?
I want to thank my company, Dutton Auto Repair. I've got my own business. I've been doing it here for almost a year now, and that's my only sponsor, so I try to take care of me.
We appreciate you being a part of this event, Cody, and appreciate the insights on this one. Congratulations on the qualifier win. I know it's just a stepping stone. We'll catch you in the 500.
Alrighty, thank you.
So your winner in qualified race number 1, Cody Dutton, from the back to the front. He wins from 19th on the grid. Podium Esports' own John Theodore is second in this race. He's also into the big show. Dylan, you're standing by with him.
John, it seemed like your car was just destroyed about 30 laps in. Looked like the rear end was torn off. You just had a lot of attrition to get through. What was the plan after you had that damage to get where you got up to in second place?
So, yeah, I don't know what happened there. I still haven't looked it on the replay to see what happened with that guy who drove in my rear end to cause all that damage. But the first caution after that happened, I just gave up all my track position and took as much repairs as I could. I had a little over a minute and got it down to about 20 seconds. And then, was just kind of managing my race, riding. I sort of knew what I wanted to do in terms of tire management and pit stops if we ended up with a long green flag situation. So I was just kind of riding and knowing what my strategy was going to be. And then the next caution, took 2 tires. That got me up to 4th, and I settled back into 7th. And then, 2 tires again. For the rest of the race, pretty much, just ended up being the right call. These cars on bias pipe tires, 4 tires has a little bit of an advantage on the first couple laps. 2 is a little bit loose, but once you can get through those first 2-3 laps, the wear on the left side really makes no difference in terms of pace on the long run. So I knew that if I could hold that track position once I got back up there, and passing to Darlington's just so tough. Yeah. So that was basically it.
It's that's a big deal. We were talking about the whole race. How much do tires matter? And it seems like, you could have got away with taking 2 tires toward the end or just tested it on the first stop. But, there's a lot of things that go into the decision. What made you take 2? What did you see?
Just experience. Me, Cody, Chad, the guys who run this series, on the official side all the time, pretty well know the strategy. It's like you don't take left side tires unless they're absolutely done, just because it costs you so much time and track position. And again, like I said, after a lap or 2, there's no difference in pace at all. So yeah, just taking 2. I took 4 on the first stop, and I think or the stop where I repaired the damage. So I think the first 2 pit cautions I took 4, and then after that it was just 2 tires for the rest of the race, because the left side tires are really not wearing much at all.
And that's what we noticed. A lot of drivers just taking 2 tires toward the end there. We didn't notice any difference, and you didn't notice any difference between taking 2 and taking 4 toward the end there. Do you have any sponsors? Anyone you want to thank for this? And great job finishing P2 tonight. We'll see you in the big show September 6th on Labor Day. It'll be on Podium Esports. Anyone you want to thank?
Yeah, so obviously, thank you to Podium Esports for putting this on. As managing member, consider them a sponsor, NEK.org. And huge shout out to my main sponsor on the car, Corey Bush, in Congress. Had a major political victory just recently, doing a protest where, she's in dirt homelessness. She knows what that's about. So sleeping on the steps is a form of protest. She knows how to do activism. I've been at protests with her out in St. Louis many times. So using that direct political action to, force the president's hand to do an executive order to extend the eviction moratorium. I thought that was fantastic. So, I've been a supporter of hers and a friend of hers for a long time. Couldn't be more proud of her and what she's doing up there in DC. So definitely shout out to Corey Bush and everyone on her team, because as I'm sure anyone who knows anything about politics knows, it's not just the politician. They're the one who's out in front of the cameras and stuff like that, but every single one of them has a team of folks behind them, makes it all happen. And I'm just happy to, support and get the word out about someone who actually represents the people as opposed to corporate interests and things like that.
Of course. And one last quick question. Who is your car a throwback to?
So that car, so the reason why I'm running the number 88 on it, that car is actually a throwback to my childhood favorite driver, which was Rusty Wallace when I was growing up. He's also from the St. Louis area. So this car is throwing back to, he actually ran, I believe it was in like 83 or 84. He ran a couple of races in a number 88 Gatorade Pontiac. So I took that green and white scheme and I made everything that was white the same color of purple that Corey was using on her campaign lit, and then I changed the orange on the Gatorade Lightning Bolt as well to match the orange that was incorporated, which is, I believe, comes from Matriarch, which is one of the progressive political action committees that was throwing some support her way that started up on the past election cycle. So that was incorporated into, the campaign literature. So I pulled the exact color codes from those two and turned what was originally a Gatorade scheme into a Corey Bush scheme. Yeah.
Again, thank you so much, John, for your time. Congrats on the P2 and way to make it into the big show. Can't wait to see what you do here in about a month. Thank you for your time, John.
Really looking forward to it. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
We'll continue on down trackside. Now stood by with your third place finisher tonight and into the big show is Garrett Maines. And Garrett, bit of a late entry into this one. No practice, straight into qualifying. And you guys kind of hung out inside of the top 10 all night, led a lot of laps. What are the takeaways?
I need to figure out where to park in my pit stall. That is the major takeaway tonight. I feel like that was kind of the moment that broke my race. I was sitting there and the paddle man was telling me to stop, and I just drove what was probably half an inch too far and just revved it up, not realizing. And then I couldn't get into reverse. So I ended up sitting there for like 5 seconds and I lost 7 positions right there. That was, of course, a little too late to make it back up, and I didn't take fuel, and that just made it worse. I was plowing tight. But like you said, we jumped in and I had to learn as I went. But it was a lot of fun. This car, it was really easy to race side by side, and definitely a really good setup. Sounds like it's going to be a really fun feature event, especially with the way this track wore in and the rubber build up. Just, it was a blast. Great racing with Cody there and John. Just that was an excellent race.
I mean, you're coming off of your best finish of the year in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series just on Tuesday night. Last night hit Watkins Glen, and then coming over to these 87 cars at Darlington. I mean, we saw early in this race, the chatter was about tires. Tires are going to be worn. Guys are going to want tires, but it looked like 2 tires was a call tonight. I mean, was that a bit of guys save it a little bit? I mean, where do you think that aggressiveness level was, and what can this preview for the 500-mile race next month?
Yeah, 2 things. Thankfully, last night, like you said, was my best road course finish of the year. I did have Richmond, and I really want to one-up that finish. I want to get one more spot. That would be excellent, especially if we can get it at Michigan. Just need that win so we can lock ourselves in. But it's all got to go right for us. We're in a really tight spot here. We just had no luck for the last, 2 months. But here in this race with the 4-tire calls, I didn't realize, somebody said that the pit delta time was extremely long. So I was like, oh, well, I'm just getting screwed by luck. And then I realized, oh, they're taking 2, and it was to free the car up. I just didn't catch on to that trend until too late. So basically at the end of the race, when they did rubber it up, I hadn't taken and played the right strategy. So end of the day, learning lesson. I don't run these cars, and the rubber buildup was pretty dramatic tonight. But overall, I mean, definitely good to learn tonight. Very, very lucky to have survived that final crash. I didn't expect him to dive it there. I thought when I went down, I was trying to show that I was, clear, so that I wouldn't get, dove into one, and just I had no opportunity to avoid that. So just the fact that I'd slid up to the wall the way I did and it didn't turn me around was absolute pure luck.
Well, it means you're in the show. You got an opportunity to race for that $500 prize next month, but you did your job tonight. You locked it up, Garrett. We'll let you jump out of here as always, though. Who's on the 2 car? Who makes it happen for you?
Yeah, I got to thank OfferPad, Smithfield, Linux, Nutrient Ag Solutions, Digital Hub. Jeez, slaughtered that. And everybody at Elliott Sadler Esports been killing it this year. The last 2 months, we've had some of the best race cars I've driven, and just, haven't got the results we deserved until last night, but it really goes to show how much work's been putting in, the road courses, to be able to get a 7th place finish last night and to have the pace and the potential to go further, just really goes to show how good the program's been over there. And, we got room to grow as well. We've learned a lot this season, and, just going to try to lock ourselves in for next year and, see if we can come back swinging next year.
You got a lot of Darlington coming up. Got a Coke race there. You got the feature in this one on September the 6th as well, due up. But I guess I'll catch you over at Michigan. Garrett, appreciate you stepping by and chatting with us. Congratulations on a good result.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Looking forward to Darlington.
He is into the show. Garrett Maines, P3 tonight, qualified for the Retro 500. And we'll step off of the podium and down to the bubble. Brandon Zimmerman, the last transfer in, Dylan. You're with the driver of the 20, who had quite an evening.
BZ, Brandon, my guy. A lot happened in that last 20 laps. So we were talking about you. We were saying, if you're, a lot of stuff's about to start kicking off. You were sitting in that 14th spot, I want to say, with like 19 to go. And we're saying, don't count out people in 14th and 15th. What happened that last 20 laps to get you into the bubble and into the big show on Labor Day?
That's a very good question. I realized pretty early on that I didn't have the speed as the top 10 people. So I decided to just save my tires and try to stay out of trouble. Got second to last caution. I took tires, restarted 14th, and had that, second to last caution, then that other caution, restarted 11th. And all hell broke loose then. I'm not really sure what happened.
Honestly.
Yeah.
So, of course, you said you didn't have quite the speed as maybe the top 10. There's 2 different ways you can go. You can either, race your way in on speed, or you could try to outsmart your opponent, try to save an extra set of tires in your back pocket, try to do something pit strategy wise, maybe play a game with chicken of someone in the corner. What notes did you take from tonight that you could apply to what you're going to see on September the 6th in the big show, which you're in, by the way?
Yeah, I noticed different lines those guys up front were running. I tried it a couple of times here and there. I'm definitely going to hit the testing this week, try to get some more practice in. Tires are a big deal. I can definitely tell a fall up at about 15 laps. If you can save your right rear, you're pretty much golden. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing I take away from the race is just try to save tires and stay out of trouble until the end.
We mentioned that in the open. These are a little different than the Cup car, even the Xfinity car, the truck. There's not as much downforce. It's going to require you to drive it a little bit more and on edge more than, say, the Cup car. What did you notice with your tires during the race? Did you try out 2 tires at any point, or did you just go for the whole race? Or what did you do down on pit road?
No, I wasn't brave enough to do 2 tires, man. I'm not even going to lie to you. Really, I just kept taking 4 each time. And then I babied it for the first 10 laps every run. Yeah, I played with the throttle. I just tried to do everything I can to save the tires the best I could.
Well, sometimes the safe bet is the best bet, and it worked out for you. Brandon Zimmerman, you're in the big show. You got any sponsors you want to thank, or anyone you want to thank back home watching maybe?
I appreciate that, man. And I want to give a shout out to Angry Brew Coffee for supporting my streams all the time. And Precision Graphics, they went ahead and painted me this car. I love it. Turned out great. So I'll give them a shout out. I appreciate it, man. And yeah, that's about it, man.
Of course, Brandon Zimmerman into the big show, finishing 10th. That big show going to take place on Labor Day, September the 6th. Brandon, thank you so much for the time.
Well, a big thanks to all of the drivers for giving us a bit of time here post-race to chat with us. A wild night at Darlington. We had some excitement early. Things kind of settled down towards the middle. And I think that was just to put us off guard a little bit for the craziness at the end. Wrecking cars in the top 10, dropping out, penalties at the bubble, different leaders. We had about maybe a half a dozen different race leaders over the course of this one. I mean, this race had just about everything I think we could have asked for.
It's a great mix and pot of stuff. You know, it was kind of, you know, business was catching on early, then it kind of settled down, and then it got to about 40 to go, and it was just, you know, it was, best way to put it, Brandon said, all hell was just breaking loose. You know, we had penalties, we had different pit strategy, we had guys going 3 wide, guys wrecking for 4th. I mean, it was just a whole bunch of stuff, and this is just the first qualifying race. We got 3 more of these. 3 more of these over the next month, and then we got the big show. So who knows what's going to happen over the next month.
A lot still to happen, and remember, if you're tuning in and saying, hey, I'm enjoying this action, not only can you join us next week, but you can still race. Try to get yourself in to the Retro 500, podiumesports.com/Retro 500 to get in on the action. Be on track, and we'll catch you next time out. 1 down, 3 to go. A lot of excited racing. And Dylan, I want to thank you for being a part of this event with me this evening here on Podium Esports. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. A great night of action should just be a precursor for what's to come, I'd say.
It was an honor to be side by side with you there, Evan.
Happy to have you, man. Hey, that'll do it for us, though, here tonight from the virtual Darlington Raceway. On behalf of James Pike, Gary Sexton, Cisco Scaramuza, John Theodore, and the entire team at Podium Esports, for our camera builder, Dougie Beard, and for your broadcast team tonight. For our producer, Ryan Bauer, for Dylan Connolly, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate tonight's race winner, Cody Dutton. We hope to see you tomorrow night for the eNASCAR Road to Pro qualifying iRacing series race from Watkins Glen, but we are back for qualifying race number 2 next Wednesday night here from Darlington. That race and every race on the road to the Retro 500 can be found exclusively here on Podium Esports. Till next time, good night from Darlington.